Welcome back. We are starting FormsCreator locally. As you can see, I'm using Visual Studio Code. You can use any IDE of your choice, it doesn't matter. In my FormsEngine workspace here, you can see a couple of folders that we'll not use. I'm just not going to remove them from my workspace. I need them. But the most important is that this first folder is the FormsCreator, the second one Forms Publisher, Forms Admin we are not going to start locally, and this MIT is the Forms Integrator. But let's start with the FormsCreator. So here, if I open Docker Compose YAML file, you can see that we start two services. It's a creator and database. Creator is the Java application, our FormsCreator, and the database is MySQL 5. You know from the previous video, we use MySQL here. Important place here is the volume of the database. We have to map database data to some local folder. It's now named volume, but let's do it differently. Let's do it data volume. So when we start the project, in this folder, in our root, a new folder will appear called data volume, and there we will have all the data from the MySQL. It's useful if you want to persist your data, right? Because when you restart the container, it will be fresh new, but then this volume will get all MySQL database from your data volume folder. And also you can have a couple of data volumes and then just change them, the names here, and have one data volume with one set of companies and another with some other settings that you need. And this environment section here is important because it contains your MySQL root password, the name of the database, the username and password that the user, it creates the user and the password for it. If we go here into the Grails app and then application YAML file, you'll see here their environments key, development, that's what we're going to use, and the data source. And this is the settings for the data source. As you can see here, we use this user and password, the same as we have in the Docker Compose YAML file. And the important is the URL. URL host name is the DB, because inside the Docker network, we can refer to the container by its service name. So it's DB here and DB here. This is how creator service connects to the database by host name DB. And inside this DB container, the port 3306 is opened and MySQL is listening there. So that's why we do connect like that. It should just work, I think. Besides that, I've copied also one more container. Feel free to just copy it from the video. It's let's call it just phpMyAdmin. So this is the web tool to inspect your database. It's written on the PHP, but that doesn't matter for us. We will just use it as users. I used it for a different project, that's why I have some differences here. So a PMA host has to point to your database host, which is in our case DB on line 15. So let's do this. MySQL root password, we have it here. Let's copy it. phpMyAdmin needs to know about that. And it starts on the port 80 inside the container. But we want to map it to the local container 80, let's say 90, so it doesn't have any conflicts with our components. And that's it. When it starts by a local host 8090, we'll have access to our phpMyAdmin and can have a brief look at the database structure. And depends on, it's just, so this container starts after the database container. We can do that like this. So it depends on DB service. So I think that's good enough. Let's try it. I will just cut the video to not make you wait in your local environment. That can be a couple of minutes, but feel free to pause the video and then proceed. So open an integrated terminal. So here I am in the terminal of this folder. Let's do docker compose up and see what we have. Nothing, because docker is not started. Okay, I started the docker. Let's do clear and again docker compose up. Okay, now it's better. Let's wait and see what it says. I'm not sure if it's going to start right from the first attempt, but let's see. Okay, so after a couple of minutes, I can see that it finished with the startup, and you have to find this line here, that Grails application running at, and here's the link to your project. But if I try to go there, I see that it doesn't work, because 8080 is the port inside our container, as you can see here in the docker compose file, and we are mapping it to the 8081 port. So let's just change the port here to 8081, and hopefully there will be a local version of the FormsCreator. For some reason it takes some time, but yes, it is there. Now we have a completely fresh installation of the FormsCreator without anything in the database. No, actually about the database. Let's go there. So localhost. Our PHP myadmin is at 8090, like we configure it. Yeah, I accessed that previously, I think, so I'm still logged in. But let's log out somehow. Home, log out. Yeah, so I'll show you how to log in. So username is root, and the root password is here, MySQL root password, so it will be this one. You can do anything you want there. Go. And yes, so we are inside the PHP myadmin. Here in the left side there are tables of MySQL. There are some tables that are there from the very beginning, but this Q engine is ours. FormsCreator uses this database. So if we go there, you can see there are some tables already created with 0 rows in every table, but the user and user role table has 1 record. If we browse the user table, we can see here that there is a user admin, and he has a password, but this password is hashed, so we can't see it. So how to access the application? Well, we need to find a file called bootstrap in the project. Go to the Grails app folder, init folder, and then the bootstrap Groovy file. And this bootstrap Groovy file runs at the very beginning when you start the project locally, and it runs some code to create some initial data, including the admin user. So here on line 53 you can see create user, admin, and his password. Of course, change that password if you ever host FormsEngine anywhere. So let's go to the FormsCreator, say admin, and paste the password that I've just copied. Again, it's for some reason it's quite slow, but let's just wait a couple of seconds. Maybe it's because I'm recording the video. And yeah, we are inside the FormsCreator, and there is no content there at all. So I switch to the user tab. Now you can see some error, I don't know why. But we have this global admin here. So let's start using the FormsCreator by creating the company. My company will be Apple. Save. That's it. Now go to users, create a users. Username, Steve. Steve Jobs. User role, company admin, company user, we'll not gonna take the API in this course. So this Steve Jobs will have all the possibilities to use the Forms engine. Email, let's say it's my email. Company, Apple. Password, I don't know how secure it should be. Maybe it doesn't matter, I don't remember. So enabled, not locked, not expired, not password expired, safe. Password should have at least one symbol. Okay. Done. Yes, good. So we have our company, we have our users. Let's log out. Now let's log in as Steve. Good. So now I'm in the FormsCreator as a user of a company, which means I'm not the global admin anymore. I see completely different menu items here. So I'm the user Steve Jobs from company Apple. And let's then go to the database again. And here you can see we have this Steve user. If you look into the whole database structure again, there is one record for the company. There are 4 records for the roles. It's admin, company admin, questionnaire admin, and API role. And there are 2 users, so that's fine, nothing more. Let's start with creating a form. So let's say we have some contact form. And what's interesting, let's just go directly to the database and see here. So we have one record in the node table. This node table is the most important and the most huge table in the whole FormsCreator database, because everything is a node. So every node is one row here in this table, and it has a class. So this row has a class questioner, which means form. So if we create any page inside the form, that will be additional node, but with the class page. And that page will have its parent ID as this form ID, which is 1. And that's how the relations between all the nodes are built. Everything is a node. Question, option, group, repeater, everything is a node. So let's go to the form, edit it. Wait a bit, because my computer is recording video, and let's create a page. Contact information, and save it. Now if we switch to the database and browse it again, we see 2 nodes, and just as I said, this second node has a class page. It has a parent ID 1. Root ID for the whole form will be the same, it's 1. It always points to the root node of that form. Now let's create our first question. Text field, first name, and let's say like one more, last name. And refresh the database. Here we have 2 questions. Their parent ID is the same, this page, but the root ID is always 1. And there are some data, there's a lot of columns. Some of them are not used for some types of questions, etc. But you know, it's just all the properties of the node are mapped to appropriate columns. For example, this name ID here is the name of the node. So yes, we have our form. We will not go deep into the details about the forms. I mean, what you can do here in the FormsCreator. That's, I think, the topic for completely different, long enough training. For us, what is important is that you can publish that form. When I hit publish, I see no publishers available. So remember our first image from the first training. Do I have it somewhere? Yeah, I have it here. This one, we are here in the Forms Creator. After we created the forms, we want to do this. We want to publish our JSON structure to the Forms Publisher. So Forms Publisher knows about our form. But we can't do that right now because we have empty Forms Creator started from scratch, so there are no publishers available. How to add publishers? Well, just go to the Publishers menu item. It's empty. Hit Add Publisher, and here you can name your publisher, put the URL, token, that's the secret password to be able to publish to that publisher, and what users are allowed to use that publisher. We have all here by default, but we can also select some particular users. But it's not going to work without publisher, right? So let's, in the next video, start also publisher locally. It's almost the same way as we did now, and then we'll establish connection between these two, and our small contact form will fly over to publisher and will appear magically there. So let's do that in the next video.